Hey, what's up guys and gals? It's the Tyrant here and welcome back to my weekly Q&A session where you guys ask the questions and I give you the answers. I hope everyone's had a very happy Thanksgiving weekend so far, a very safe holiday, and it's been a pretty busy week for me too. On Thanksgiving Day I premiered my newest show, which is called Dino Fights, and essentially the premise of the show is I spend the first part of the show talking about a new prehistoric creature, usually a dinosaur, but sometimes other things too. And then I spend the second half actually showing what it would be like to see these dinosaurs fight with the assistance of Jurassic World the game. And for any dinosaur fans out there, it's something I highly recommend downloading. It's a free mobile app. You really don't have to worry about paying any real money to play it well. It's fairly straightforward, and it's a lot of fun for dinosaur fans everywhere. I'm actually learning about new dinosaurs that I hadn't heard about before. And people are wondering, why do this show? It's a lot different from what you usually do, Tyrant, and you're exactly right. It's not Halo. But, you know, I've tried to keep thinking about different things to do. It's kind of a slow time for Halo right now. There's not really a lot going on. We haven't really heard any news about Halo 6 in quite a while. And so, you know, I've been trying to figure out new things to do, and people have suggested, you know, trying other games. And the problem with that is I end up paying, you know, $60 a pop for something that may or may not work. And a lot of times I have more misses than hits. So I wanted to return to my first love. And no, it was not Halo. It's dinosaurs. I've been a huge dinosaur fan since I was a toddler. And, you know, not a lot of people, or not, I tell you what, you know, population-wise, Halo is a very niche community when you think of it on a global perspective, but I don't know many people who don't have at least one favorite dinosaur. And so I know that I have a lot of dinosaur fans in the community. I hope you can enjoy it as much as I have, and it seems like a lot of you are. You know, I've already done 2 episodes. It already seems to be doing better than any of my Halo 5 Mythic walkthroughs. So if you do me one favor tonight, check out the show. I hope you'll like it. I hope you'll join me on this. They're a lot of fun to make, and it provides for some great discussion in the comment section. So I hope to see you guys there. So back to the Q&A part of this video. For those of you who don't know how this works and you want to submit a question for next week, to which I usually pick about, you know, give or take about 10 questions, there are 3 ways you can do it. The first way is you put your question in the comment section below. The second question is you can hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. Of course, there's a direct link in my in the description below. And the third way is if you're a premium member of the site, meaning that you donate through Patreon, that means you have access to the exclusive community Discord, and you can ask your questions directly on there. In fact, we had a few people ask some questions this week, including our first question, which comes from Legendary Rob. And Legendary Rob asks, I have a question for this week's Q&A. What do you think of the possible net neutrality being repealed? I wanted to put this question first because it's extremely important that you know about this. For those of you who aren't familiar with net neutrality, essentially the concept of net neutrality is that everyone has equal access to the open internet. You know, that's what you're using right now to watch this video. It's what you do when you play video games online. And it was put in place because ISPs, basically internet providers, were trying to monopolize the system. Back in 2012 alone, Verizon and several other companies made it so that you can access Google Wallet because they had their own proprietary features that directly competed with Google Wallet. And so they want to basically censor the internet from you.
There is nothing wrong with your television. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are now controlling the transmission. We control the horizontal and the vertical. We can deluge you with 1,000 channels or expand one single image to crystal clarity and beyond.
If you hate microtransactions right now in Star Wars Battlefront 2, which I'll get to later with another question, then you're really going to hate this system. Imagine a system where not only do you have to pay for your internet, but on top of that, you may not get all the sites you want. Like, let's just say you go with Verizon, and they say, welcome to Verizon. You're going to enjoy your Netflix and your Amazon, but you're not going to have access to Hulu and YouTube. And that's exactly what they would try to do. And them repealing the net neutrality rules under the new FCC chairman is a very real possibility, and the vote's going to happen on December 14th. Now, it's difficult for me to emphasize how troublesome this is because cable companies already have a monopoly on this country. You know, they work together so they can plot out territories. Roughly 96% of the United States population only has access to 2 providers or less, which means they have no competition. They can charge you whatever they want, and there's nothing you can do about it unless you just don't want to have internet. And so that's what this is about. Now, I'm not really doing a great job of explaining this, but if you really want an in-depth and not to mention humorous way explained to you, check out Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. It's an HBO show, but they upload their main segments to YouTube, and he has 2 very informative segments on net neutrality.
Yes, net neutrality. The only 2 words that promise more boredom in the English language are featuring Sting.
It's something that's definitely worth checking out, and as far as what you can do about it, they detail it a little bit more in those videos, but you can visit the FCC's site. They have an open forum comment section where you can voice your opinion, and you can also call your local congressman. Push it through. It's been working all year in terms of making sure that things aren't pushed through that don't appeal to the vast majority of the American people. This affects everybody, including you. And how do I feel about this personally? To go back to the question itself, it will affect. It's a terrible thing. It's not just going to affect, you know, businesses that rely solely on the internet, but it's going to affect consumers too. It'll affect gamers. It'll affect people who love watching Netflix. It's going to affect everybody, even people watching this YouTube video right now. So it's a very important issue. Definitely check it out. It's a boring one to discuss, but it has it could be potentially significantly damaging to your internet experience in the future and any possible business you want to run in the future that has that's going to be widely internet based. And in the world we live in today, that's becoming more and more likely. So that's an excellent subject to bring up, Legendary Rob, and thank you, my friend. Our next question comes from James Ferguson. He's another patron. And James asks, hey, Tyrant, Q&A question. Well, sort of. Would you ever do a Mythic walkthrough for Halo 2? I know you dislike the game, but just wondering. James, you know me pretty well, my friend. So here's the thing. The flat-out answer is I have no plans at all whatsoever to do a Halo 2 Mythic walkthrough. There are a few reasons for it. The first is that the Mythic community does not recognize either Halo 2, Halo 2 Anniversary, or Halo Anniversary for actually having Mythic difficulties. And a lot of the reason for that is because the skulls aren't your standard skulls. They're sort of out of bounds. They're out of the ordinary. And so the same difficulty that would apply to other Halo games wouldn't apply there. They're more for gimmicks. They're more for giggles than anything else. And to that point, Halo 2 actually would have 2 Mythic difficulties because you have Halo 2 and Halo 2 Anniversary. Both games have different sets of skulls, so if I did one, I'd have to do the other. And for the third point, you've already said it, I'm not a fan of Halo 2's campaign. As a matter of fact, Actman, who adores Halo 2, by the way, recently did a very, very well thought out video with a friend of his about why Halo 2's campaign is so difficult, more specifically on Legendary. And it's not just what you think with the Jackal snipers, that's certainly part of it, but if you look at the enemies, they're a lot tougher, they're more numerous. They can, an elite, for example, can continuously shoot at you without ever having to stop and recharge his plasma rifle, just constant rapid firing. And it's just, there's so much RNG involved in the game that it's just not fun to do. These guides in general take me days to put together on average, depending on the mission. And I just don't feel like I would get back what I put into it. If you look at the Halo 5 Mythic walkthrough that I'm doing now, it just isn't getting very many hits. My Legendary walkthrough, well, it's doing better. But generally speaking, if you look at, you know, historically what I posted on the site, the Legendary walkthroughs do fine, and the Mythic ones don't do as well. And the reason for it, okay, so you're probably wondering why that is. So yeah, a lot of people watch my videos for entertainment value, but when it comes to walkthroughs, people also watch it for educational value. They want to look at it and try to pick up new tips for their own journey. A lot of people do Legendary, but the Mythic community is a very niche community. There aren't a lot of people out there willing to actually try it. And so a lot less people are actually looking at guides to show them how to do it. Yeah, some people look at it just because they want to see someone else conquer it, but it's not nearly as mainstream. And so basically I would be spending days trying to produce these videos, but no one would ever see them except for a handful of people. Now, if you want to change the tune a little bit, yeah, if someone said, I'll offer you $1 million for every mission that you do on Mythic and upload to YouTube, I think that's a deal I could take. It hasn't happened yet, but it's a standing offer. So I hope that answers your question, James, and thank you. Our next question comes from Darkstar Ethan. And Darkstar asks, Q&A, would Halo Chronicles return or stay canceled, like never gonna touch it? Well, short answer is I don't know what Halo Chronicles is. I'm actually going to apply this to a different question in the video later, but I'm not sure what it is, so I'm indifferent to it. If they bring it back, I guess that's great for the people who are fans of it. If not, well, I guess it wouldn't matter to them either way. So thanks for stopping by, Ethan. I appreciate it. Our next question comes from Arc48. Always good to see you, Arc. And Arc48 asks, assuming Cortana has the logic plague, how do you want the story to go? It's a little bit complicated. So if Cortana has the logic plague, I would say, first of all, that means that the Flood has some sort of presence. So I'd like to see this as an opportunity to bring back the Gravemind and the Flood. And in terms of curing her, I don't see a lot of ways to do it. Maybe Master Chief would have to become digitized himself to help remove the infection from Cortana. I'm not really sure. I'm really just kind of going out on a limb here. But that, in terms of how I feel about it, I will say that actually goes into my next question, which comes from Luke in Gold, and he asks, the latest Halo loot crate dropped a very strong hint to Cortana being infected by the logic plague. Do you think 343 is planning to explore this in Halo 6, and do you think it continues the issue of too much outside lore being brought into the mainstream game? So I actually put these two questions together intentionally, and thank you both for asking them. Here's the thing. If you've watched Hidden Xperia's latest videos, he actually makes a lot of good points, and it does seem increasingly likely that this could definitely be the issue in terms of what's going on with Cortana, why she decided to turn on humanity all of a sudden, why try to imprison Chief in the Cryptum. Here's the thing, and I've said this in other videos before, but yes, I think that the issue of them focusing on major plot points outside of the main game franchise is a huge mistake. You know, a lot of people want to argue with me with this. I don't feel that there's an argument to be had, but Halo is first and foremost a video game franchise. I don't have a problem with there being additional lore. I think that's great. But for a lot of us, when you get Halo, mostly it's just to play the games. You enjoy the games. A lot of people do enjoy the story, but a lot of people just play the games and don't do anything else. Halo 5 is the biggest offender of this. Because with Halo 5, so much happens between 4 and 5 that you're just kind of left clueless at the beginning of the game as to where you are, where you stand, where the universe stands at that point. And it's frustrating. And to find out that a lot of those questions are answered in books, in comics, it just doesn't add up. It's very sloppy, it's lazy writing. It doesn't need to be that way. Have the games mainstreamed. Have the games have their own self-contained stories, or at least stream the stories within the games themselves. Keep it within the games, but you can have outside lore. If you look at the Star Wars universe, you can watch the first 3 movies. Hell, you can watch the first 7 movies, if you will. I'm not counting Rogue One. You could count that if you want to, but you can watch the movies and understand the universe pretty well. But on top of that, they have other lore. They have books. They have comics. They have a lot of stuff that you can read if you want to find out more. But you don't need that information to understand what's in front of you. And that's what Halo needs to do. And even if you want to make the argument that, well, technically Cortana being infected with the Gravemind has been a part of the franchise, it hasn't even been brought up since 2007. By the time Halo 6 comes out, it's going to be 2019, probably 2019. And so you're looking at maybe a 12-year gap. You have a lot of new people who started the franchise off with Halo 4. They're not even going to know what's going on. Or people who are too young to understand what Cortana was going through in Halo 3. So I think it personally, I know Hidden Xperia is not going to like this. I think it would be a mistake to have to reach that far back in the Halo game franchise to make something relevant today. Personally, I still think the better idea is take the concept from Halo Escalation. Again, I know it's reaching outside the game a little bit, but they've already done it. Because in Halo Escalation, the Didact, who didn't actually die in Halo 4, was composed. And as you know, composition doesn't actually kill the being, it just digitizes them. It's possible for them to be brought back, it just hasn't been done yet. And I can see now with the created being in charge, somehow that being fixed. That being the case, and maybe that's why they were put in charge for that matter, but that being the case, I would see a much more rounded story if the Didact was somehow, the digitized version of himself was somehow influencing Cortana. I think it'd be a great way to bring the trilogy to a full circle without having to reach too far back. I think a lot of people, including myself, appreciated the Didact as a villain. And to have him just disappear off screen unceremoniously just didn't do him justice. So personally, rather than the Logic Plague, I think it'd be a better move to have the Didact brought back for him. The Logic Plague works for longtime Halo fans, but you have a whole new generation here. So I hope that answers your question, you guys, and I certainly appreciate you asking. That was a great topic to bring up. Our next question comes from the Jamster Plays. And Jamster asks, for next Q&A, do you know about the Insulation 01 fan game? If not, I recommend checking it out. Well, I have not heard of Insulation 01, but I believe I have heard of Installation 01. Just messing with you, man. So actually, not only have I heard of it, I actually got to meet with the guys when I traveled to Seattle a few months ago. They're very cool. I have a lot of faith in their project. It's still not out yet, and I keep checking back because especially when the Halo news is a little bit dry, I love checking out different fan works out there. We just wrapped up SPV3 not that long ago. Of course, that was done by the very talented Masters Leet. And I'm really looking forward to what these guys are selling with Installation 01, a fun, new, updated multiplayer experience. So I can't wait for it to come out, and I hope you can too. Our next question comes from Jackal Elite. And Jackal Elite asks, what do you think about the Jackal speaking English in Halo 5 now? So it doesn't really bother me as much as it used to. With Halo 2, it bothered me because they hadn't spoken English before, unless you draw an exception for the grunts. But at least with Halo 4 and 5, the Covenant go back and forth between English and their native tongues. And that makes sense to me. I can side with that because they recognize there are two languages. They recognize that the Covenant are trying to learn English, maybe to better understand us for their advantage. And that makes sense to me. I can get on board with that. We haven't really heard Jackal speak English before, and to be honest with you, their voices are so scared I really couldn't tell, to be honest with you, until you brought it up. But I'm fine with it as long as they don't snipe me and my entire team. Fun fact, Jackal Elite actually told me that he got his name from that video, so that's a great little fun tip, and I appreciate you checking in, Jackal Elite. It's always good to hear from you, man. Our next question comes from Blue Banana. Oh, that sounds cool. And Blue Banana asks, how do you feel about the revival mechanic of Halo 5's campaign? So, a little segue here. He actually had a much longer question. There was mostly a statement after that where he talked about he didn't like the revival mechanic, he didn't like the squad mechanic. I'm going to be the odd man out here and say I really do appreciate both of them. What you have to understand is that Halo 5 is a different type of game in the sense that you have much larger battles, and the squad system and the revival mechanic both help balance that out. Basically, if you had to go up against all those Covenant with just yourself, it would be a near impossibility. I'm not saying it can't be done, I'm just saying it would be a grind and nothing that anyone in their right mind would want to actually experience. I think the squad system is a great addition. The revival mechanic, what it does, what I appreciate about it is it prevents cheap deaths from happening, like being one-shotted by a Jackal sniper or an enemy sneaking up behind you because they teleported behind you. In fact, because this was such a major issue with Halo 4 and we didn't have theater mode for campaign, I actually spawned a series called Halo 4 WTF Moments, and I just released the first season this past Monday in full so you can watch it. It's about an hour long. But I came up with that because I kept dying and didn't know why. Halo 5's revival system helps prevent that from happening, and it allows you to go into larger battles with more preparation. And people have been asking for larger battles in Halo for ages. This goes back all the way to Combat Evolved. People were talking about in the next Halo game having larger battles. So I see this as an improvement. I see it as something the majority of the community can benefit from, and I hope people can learn to see it that way. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Blue Banana, and thank you. Our next question comes from Stacking Benjis. And Stacking Benjis asks, how long do you think 343 can continue the story and publish new Halo games? The franchise has been a great success for nearly 2 decades now. Is it possible to keep going for 2 more, or does it simply need to end at some point in time? So of course, with anything, it's got to come to an end sooner or later. I'm actually surprised Red versus Blue's been going on as long as it has. With Halo, unlike games like Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog, it has a narrative to it. And you have to sort of ask yourself at some point, what happens when the people who play the main characters like Steve Downes and Master Chief and Jen Taylor and Cortana, at one point are they going to want to retire from that? You know, I think the longest running character I've seen voiced, and I could be wrong here, but the longest running video game character that was portrayed by the same actor was the gentleman who played Kane in Command & Conquer. He played him for 15 years. And now we have the Master Chief, who's now coming up on that. Technically, he's surpassed it, sort of. You know, technically when he did Halo 5 Guardians, it had been 14 years. And so now they're going to surpass that with Halo 6. I can't imagine these guys want to go on for another 20 years doing the same voice over and over again. And on top of that, you're going to talk about generations of developers who are going through this. Remember, the developers who are currently working on Halo weren't the ones who started working on it. That was Bungie. Now we have 343 Industries. I think times are going to change. I think eventually not just the developers are going to want to move on to other things, but the fans as well. It gets old after a while. Halo isn't the front runner anymore when it comes to FPSs. It's up there, but it's not a pioneer like it used to be. So I think eventually they're going to have to switch over to something else. How long that's going to take, I'm not entirely sure. I would guess probably sometime in the 2020s would be my best guess. But that's a great question. I appreciate that one, Stacking Benjis. Thank you. Our next question comes from Fun Hazards FPS. And Fun Hazards asks, I've always been a fan of playable elites in Bungie's Halo, despite some of the issues with their size. With the return of the Arbiter and allied elites, do you think playable elites could return in Halo 6, and what are your thoughts about this? Would it be good or a bad idea? Well, you know, to be honest with you, there are ways to make it work. You know, I know that Reach is probably my second least, well, I won't even get into that. But honestly, I feel like the UNSC, the Spartan, let me back up, the Spartan Elite system was probably best implemented in Halo Reach because they had a specific game type. So you couldn't really be mad at someone for being an elite because that was the point. That's the opposition. You're playing a game type called Invasion. One side is human, the other side is alien. And I think that was a great way to go. I think everyone should be able to have a profile, and in that profile they have a Spartan and they have an elite that can decorate any way they want to. I think there's a definite opportunity for them to bring it back in Halo 6. I think that would be the best and most balanced way to bring it back. And tell me what you think, Fun Hazards. Do you like that idea too, or do you feel like that needs to be mixed in multiplayer a little bit more? Our next question comes from Pat Canny. Always good to hear from you, Pat. And Pat asks, I know it's off topic, but since you're playing Battlefront 2, what are your thoughts on the game and the microtransactions? Oh, Ackman's not going to be happy about this one. So in terms of the microtransactions, I think most people, including myself, are on the same page. Microtransactions have gotten way out of hand. People already, you know, pay $60 for their game. They don't need to keep emptying their wallets to, you know, have an advantage over the battlefield. I think the flaw with microtransactions is that it's pay to win, where if you're willing to pay extra money for this gambling system, which is usually random, might I add, hence why it's gambling, and they can actually, and by paying this extra money, they can gain direct advantages on the battlefield to people who can't afford it, and I don't think that's right. I think the people who probably handled it best by far, and I'll take a chapter out of Late Night Gaming's book for a second, is Titanfall 2. Most of the weapons and upgrades you can get for your Titan or for your pilot, you can earn in-game, which is exactly the way it should be. And it's not as tedious as, say, Star Wars Battlefront 2 was going to make it before they nixed the transactions. And I think that's important to note. You could buy stuff for Titanfall 2, but it was all cosmetics. And, you know, if you wanted to, you know, add a little adjustment to your pilot's appearance, your Titan's appearance, you can do that. And I think that's a very progressive way to go without making the player feel like they're just spending their money so they can just keep up with everybody else. I'm not a fan of microtransactions. I think they need to be nixed from the mainstream games. I'm fine with them when it comes to mobile games because it's pretty much understood at this point. If you're going to download a free game, yeah, they've got to be able to pay for it somehow. So I understand why it's there for a lot of mobile games, but for mainstream games, that needs to stay away. In terms of the game itself, so far I've had a lot of fun with it. I mean, I stay out of multiplayer. I didn't get it for multiplayer. And a lot of people are mad at me because, well, some people are mad at me because I bought the game instead of boycotting it. Reality is, I just wanted to buy it for the campaign and the skirmish modes. I don't go online and do that multiplayer stuff. And in that, in that light, yes, I think it's a great game. I think it's got fantastic graphics. I think it's got a lot of cool options for the player. It's very robust. It's got lots of different modes you can play, including space battles, which, I played Battlefront 1, and I don't remember there being any space battles. Yes, there were segments where you could fly on the battlefield, but man, those space battles look so cool. So I'm going to say I like Battlefront 2, but I'm really happy the community stepped up and made EA, at least for now, get rid of the whole loot box situation. So that's a great question, Pat Canning, and I appreciate it. And our star question of the week comes from CFunk99. He's another patron of this site. It's always good to hear from you, Funk. And Funk asks, why is there a mix of people wanting to go back to classic Halo and some wanting to keep it Halo 5-esque? Well, this is a great question, and it's a debate that we hear a lot, isn't it? Are you talking about, people talking about the classic art style versus the modern art style? The old gameplay versus the new gameplay, the new enemies versus the old enemies. Let me tell you. So a lot of these folks are just stuck in the past. They're very nostalgic. They feel like Halo was perfect the way it was, forgetting the fact that Halo has evolved with every single game. That's one of the main things that separates it from Call of Duty, aside from actually having a pretty decent story. A lot of the complaints that derive from Call of Duty are the fact that basically they copy and paste the same game with a new coat of paint every year. Halo doesn't do that. It evolves its gameplay. With Halo 2, we saw the addition of vehicle hijacking and dual wielding. With Halo 3, we saw a bunch of new vehicles, we saw new features, new weapons, and we saw, theater mode for campaign, four-player online co-op, a lot of cool stuff. Reach added armor abilities, 4 added new armor abilities, and 5 has a movement system that, in my eyes, is actually very well done. In terms of why I feel that way, it's because it's an enhanced movement system as opposed to that benefits the player on all levels and benefits all players universally the same way, as opposed to Halo 4 and Halo Reach, which had armor abilities. Now in Halo 5, you don't have to worry about some guy who has a jetpack while another guy has active camo, and that there's some asshole out there who has armor lock. Now you know what everyone is capable of doing. Now, Halo 5, let's start with multiplayer for a second, because I feel like Halo 5 really addressed this quite well. It took them a while to do it, but they eventually did this. I understand why people do like the classic movement system, and sort of the fix for that was they made a Halo 3 playlist. And they actually did something similar with Halo Reach, where they made a Halo Anniversary playlist as well. And in both cases, they took maps, they remade classic maps for people to play. Especially in Halo 3, you had a lot of talented forgers come in and do remakes or reimaginings of a lot of classic maps, and I think that was a great fix for it. You didn't have any of the enhanced mobilities. You had weapons that were fine-tuned to be more like the original Halo 3 weapons, and to me, Halo 3 was probably the pinnacle of that Halo era. So, personally for me, I think that that was the best way to address it. That way you can appease both types of fans, both who are nostalgic and they want the classic gameplay, and those new generation folks, or folks who are just like me and they like the new movement system. You can have the playlist for them as well. And I hope they're able to implement that sooner in Halo 6. Now, in terms of the campaign, if you have complaints on that and the movement system there, I don't really know how to help you with that. I think that's kind of a reckless statement, in the sense that you have enhanced movement to help you fight all those legions of enemies that you have to deal with throughout the campaign. It's there to benefit you. It's there for you to take advantage. And why wouldn't you want that for campaign especially? And for those of you who aren't satisfied with it in campaign, here's a tip. Halo 3 was just recently made backwards compatible for the Xbox One and Xbox One X, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it was also given a 4K update. So if you don't like the campaign and the way it's done in Halo 5, good news, you can pop in your Halo 3 disc. But not every campaign needs to be a copy and paste of the previous one. Otherwise, why would you play the new game? Just to further yourself a little bit more in the plot, you can watch a video or read an article. You don't necessarily have to experience it, but I want new stuff. And I think Halo 5 brought a lot of good things to the table. As we mentioned earlier, the squad system allowed you to have larger battles. The new movement system allows you to be more versatile in those battles. The revive system allows you to survive cheap deaths. I like these things, and I think they should stay. I'd love to see a lot of this carried over to Halo 6. And once again, to touch on your point, I think if people love the classic games, you have one of two options. The developers can develop a classic playlist for multiplayer for those folks. Option two, those folks can now go back and play Halo 3. I understand that that's not what people want. You want to be able to play the newest and latest Halo game with the classic movement system, and it doesn't work that way. And I'm sorry that for the folks that don't like that. But you can't please everybody. Believe me, I can testify to that one. But you can't make everybody happy. But I think they did a great job with the new innovations in Halo 5. I know the campaign story was bleh, but at least the mechanics and the gameplay styles were vastly improved from previous Halo titles. I would love to see that innovation continue throughout Halo 6. I'm hoping people can get on board with it. I'm hoping people can help, start leaving that nostalgia behind a little bit. You can still love those games, but I'm hoping they can learn to appreciate the new ones as well. So that was a great question, C-Funk. I know that was a little drawn out. And before I actually bring this to a conclusion, someone asked me a question yesterday in one of my videos. I'm not going to give a name. I will say that he is definitely one of the respected members of my community. He's a great asset here, and I wanted to address this without him facing any sort of criticism, because I've gotten this question a lot, and it's something that I felt like needs to be addressed. And before I do, if that person is watching this video right now, you may not like the tone of my answer, but understand I'm not directing this answer directly at you, because you're a great individual. I'm glad to have you here. This is for those folks who feel extremely entitled to own the world and everything in it. The question was pertained to my Discord. So for those of you who don't know, I have donors, people who donate real money to this site to help keep it going so that we can survive this whole YouTube adpocalypse thing, the new rules that they're rolling out. Because I don't know if they're ever going to fix them or not, so we have this Patreon thing to help keep this site going through 2018 and beyond. And these are very generous people who've taken the time to donate their hard-earned money to my site, and as sort of a baseline reward for that, I created a private premium Discord for those people, so they have a more direct line to me, and they have a way they can communicate with each other without fear of it getting lost in a sea of comments. And so that's just a baseline reward. That's a way of me saying thank you for your help, your much needed help, might I add. And so when it was asked if I would create a separate Discord for standard members, the answer is no. It's just no. And there's two reasons for that. And the first and most important reason is because there are people paying for that privilege currently, to have that private Discord, to have that direct line. And the payment isn't significant. I mean, it applies to anyone who's a patron, whether you're donating $1 a month or $10 a month. $1 literally is the entry fee to gain access to the community Discord. That's it. $1 is, to put it in perspective, $1 a month is $12 a year. That's less than the price of a movie ticket in most places. That's less than the price of a $60 Xbox game. That's less than paying $15 a month for World of Warcraft. And that sure as hell is a lot less than paying $500 a month for the newest console out there. And so I don't want to undermine what they're going out of their way to do. And the thing of it is, it still kind of baffles me. Let me go off on another tangent for a second. I know that some of you want to donate and you can't for different reasons. I know some of you younger viewers wish that you could. I'm telling you, even if you could, about 9% of my base here is folks under the age of 18. Even if you could, I don't want you to. The answer is no. This is not your battle to fight. This is, if you do have money, I would rather you take that money and invest in your future. You have your whole lives ahead of you. Now for the other 91%, this is a chance for you to donate that dollar. Think of it as, paying for a premium service that you never want to go away. It's not like I'm asking you to donate, Netflix type money here, but $1 a month is enough to help, and it would gain you access to that Discord. That brings me to my second reason. Why would I not want to create another one anyway, even if it's a separate one, even if it doesn't mean the same as the premium Discord? And I'm gonna lay this out for you. I think most people don't understand what I do and don't understand what goes on behind the scenes. So I sat down and actually counted the number of jobs I have for this site. In a real studio, all these separate jobs would be divided amongst different people, and some jobs would actually be divided amongst multiple people. So just to give you an idea of what I do for this site, and I'm sure my fellow YouTubers out there can, agree with me on this. I'm a writer, I'm a producer, I'm a director, I'm an actor, I'm a cameraman, I'm a sound equipment manager, I'm a community manager, I am a marketing specialist, I'm a marketing analyst, I'm a research analyst, and I'm also an editor. And also I am a professional gamer, depending on who you ask. And up until recently, I had another job too, which one of my community members so gracefully stepped up and was willing to help me out with. And thank you, Mr. Winter, just to give you a shout out there. And he's doing a lot of my graphic design now. In fact, he's working on a new site intro for me right this minute that a lot of you have been asking for a long time. So up until then, that was 12 jobs that I had, and now it's down to 11, but that's 11 jobs that I have that would normally be given to a team of people. And on top of all that, I want to bring to light, this is the site's 750th video. That's right, we are 3/4 of the way to 1,000, and if I can actually get the donations I need, or if YouTube can fix whatever's going on their back end, we might actually see 1,000 videos by 2018, by sometime in 2018. But to that end, each one of these 750 videos has their own comments section, their own thread, especially when you start looking at the larger videos that have over 1 million views. Those comment sections have thousands of comments in them, and I'm supposed to moderate all 750 of these. On top of that, I also have to check out my Twitter, see who's tweeting me there, who's asking questions, who needs my help, all that stuff. And then on top of that, I'm also doing the premium Discord. And so when someone comes along and asks, well, can you add one more thing to it? I'm like, really? No. Oh my gosh, people actually ask me a lot why I don't respond to direct messages, and that's why. I don't have time. It's not unusual for me to have an 18-hour workday, and at the end of the day, I still don't know how much money I'm going to make from that workday. And so that's basically it right there. I know there are a lot, again, this is not directed at the person who actually asked this question yesterday, but the others who feel like they're entitled to have more. Keep in mind, almost all of the content I produce is available for free for you every day. All you have to do is show up. You don't even have to subscribe. I want you to subscribe. I want you to be a part of this awesome community, but you don't have to have access to it. And so you already have access to tons of free stuff. I try to produce a new video every single day. I try to keep up with people in the comment section and on Twitter and on Discord, and I try to make sure you know how much I appreciate you. But there's only so much I can do. This actually harkens back to when someone asked me, why can't I get a full-time job and do this on the side? And the answer is because I have stuff to do outside of YouTube. I have a life outside of this. And there are people out there who also depend on me. And so I've got to be able to have a healthy balance between my work life and my personal life. And from when I tried this back in 2014, trying to balance all three, guess which one was put on the back burner? And that's YouTube. I knew I couldn't do all three. But fortunately now, well, the silver lining of events that happened a couple of years ago, I guess if there was really a silver lining, is I have the opportunity to actually do YouTube full time while still being able to balance out my personal life. And so basically I can't overload myself, but at the same time, I want to make sure that people who are actually donating, who are taking that time and that extra effort just to put $1 in or $10 in or whatever they can afford, I want to make sure that they are rewarded for it. And the funny thing is, most of the people, the 18 patrons that I currently have, most of them didn't donate because they wanted the rewards. I'm making damn sure they get those rewards, but they just want to help out. They want to see this site continue to the future. That's why I'm so happy. I'm so proud of these individuals. I'm so humbled by the fact that they're willing to do that. And the thing of it is, the site's been up for almost 3 months now, the Patreon site, and I feel very lucky to have those 18 patrons that are on there helping to keep this site going. But at the same time, there's also almost 35,000 other people out there who aren't. And so these guys deserve to have a little special treatment for what they're doing, for what everyone else isn't willing to do. And I certainly appreciate everything that they are doing. And I want to take a time right now to thank them so much for going out of their way and doing this. And, you know, the thing of it is, I feel like at times people tend to take this site for granted, which is why they keep asking for more when I can't always deliver. And that brings to my final point. And it's not really, I don't like ending these things on a sour note, but this is something I brought up a while ago. And unfortunately, I told you guys that, you know, in early 2018, I'd have to make the call whether or not I was going to be able to continue with the site or if I had to start looking elsewhere. And so I've set a date. I've discussed this with my family and whatnot, and I feel like this is the right thing to do. Originally, I told you guys February was going to be the time when I decided. And so I picked a fair date that I feel like we can all sort of agree on, and that's February 17th, 2018. And for those who don't have a calendar in front of you, that's 12 weeks away from today. And I picked that specific date because that's what's scheduled to go up that day is the 50th Q&A. And I figured if there was going to be a time to deliver good or bad news, that would be the time to do it. I have such a great audience here with the Q&As. I know you hate it when I go on rants, and I don't like it any more than you do. I appreciate everyone who tolerates them, but that's what I'm going to have to do. And a lot can change. That's roughly 3 months from now. A lot can happen between now and then, both good and bad. You know, YouTube could very much, you know, reverse their policies and make things better for us. I could have people donate on Patreon, and, you know, the store could even do well. But of course, there's also the net neutrality thing that none of us have control over right now. Well, we sort of do if we're willing to contact our congressman and the FCC, but there's no telling if even that'll do the trick. I encourage everyone to try, but it's hard to say what's going to go on in the next month or even in the next 3 months. But I wanted to be honest with you and tell you what decision that I had made. No one influenced me to make this choice other than the current situation on YouTube. This is all me right here. And I've bounced this off of other people just to get their opinion, and they agree that that's a good way to go. And so 12 weeks from today, I'm either going to give you good news or I'm going to give you bad news. And I really hope it's the former. If there's one thing I can say I love, it's my community. And the last thing I want to do is have to give it up, especially for reasons that are not your fault. They're not my fault. They're the fault of a bunch of selfish individuals out there who just have no respect for anyone else. And I really hope that's not the case. So I really hate ending things on that note, but that does bring it close to this week's Q&A. What are your thoughts on this? You know, let me know in the comments below, or you can hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. A link to my Twitter feed can be found in the description below. And if you want to join the movement, you want to help get this site through, you want to help keep us going throughout 2018 and beyond, I'm going to go ahead and throw up a link to my Patreon site. Again, starting fee is as little as $1 a month, pocket change. Hopefully you can get there, and hopefully I can give you some really cool rewards to help, just to thank you for going out of your way. And of course, we also have a MythicTyrant store as well. It's designed with tons of MythicTyrant apparel, with lots of electronic devices. People have really taken a liking to the keyboard and the mouse, and I really appreciate everyone who's gone out there and taken a look at it. I hope you love the product that you get. The holidays are coming up, so that's something that you might want to consider adding to your holiday list. And of course, if you really like this video, and I hope you do, I hope you love everything you see on this channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button for more great content every single day right here on mythictyranт.com. And if you really want to help me out, get those view counts up, hit that notification icon as well. That way it's, you know, if you want to contribute something but money is not an option, that's one way to do it right there. Hit that notification icon so that you can be the first to know when a video goes up. You can be the first to comment, and you'll get push notifications on your phone to give you that heads up, to give you that initial push forward, to give you that head start. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching today, guys and gals both. You're a great, great community. I love having you a part of this community, and I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Thank you guys so much for watching, guys and gals alike. I will catch you all right back here next time. I hope you have a very happy Have a very happy and safe Thanksgiving weekend. And as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.